So good evening and welcome to this forum for the candidates running for Deerfield Selectboard in the May 5th town election. I am Marie Gauthier from Shelburne Falls, president of the League of Women Voters of Rankin County, which is sponsoring tonight's forum, and co-president of the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts. The League encourages informed, active participation of citizens in local, state, and national government, but does not support or oppose candidates or political parties. It has a long tradition of providing voter information services such as these forums. As your moderator, I want to welcome the candidates and thank you for your participation in this nonpartisan outreach to the voters in the community. I also want to thank the members of the community for your attendance. Frontier Community TV is streaming these forums and
we can't hear you.
You can't. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, they should also. So I guess you have to get really close.
Yeah, just got to be close to it.
Yes, really close. It is on.
The light's on. I know the light's on, but can you hear me?
No, you can't.
It's not working. I didn't touch anything. 10 seconds.
Wait, no. No, that was your name.
Yeah.
We tested all these before.
Test, test, test. Test. That sounds better. Okay, cool.
Okay, everyone test yours again. So once again, welcome. Frontier Community TV is streaming or recording these forums. Are you streaming also? Not streaming, but they're recording and it will be available on YouTube later. Once again, I'm Marie Gauthier from the League of Women Voters, and the candidates have been apprised of the format and ground rules for the forum, but for your benefit, I will give an overview. Candidates will be allotted 2 minutes for an opening statement in ballot order, 60 seconds to answer questions, and 2 minutes for a closing statement in reverse ballot order. League volunteers will serve as official timekeepers. Raise your hand. And when your time is expired, candidates, you may finish your sentence but leave it there. Rebuttals for individual questions will not be allowed. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to answer each question with a rotation in the order of their responses. The questions were prepared in advance by the League, but they are from the community who sent questions via email. Your questions were received and compiled. The questions have not been viewed by candidates before in the forum. And while we will not take questions from the floor, you may also write questions on the note cards we provided, though I do want you to know that we have received an awful lot of questions via email, and a lot of your concerns are duplicated there. But feel free to write your questions, and we will answer them as we can. When you're ready, you raise your hand with your card, and the League member will collect it. Please direct any questions to both candidates. Questions will be screened by League volunteers, and we will endeavor to cover as many topics as we can in our allotted time, and we may combine several questions on the same topic to form a composite question. And please note that all of tonight's League volunteers are residents of other towns, and as such are neutral parties. So candidates, we now invite you to introduce yourselves with your opening statement, beginning in ballot order. So first, we'll go to the Hilchi.
Good evening, and thank you to the League for sponsoring this forum. I'm Tim Hilchi, and I'm asking Deerfield voters to keep me on the job on May 2nd. I don't take a paycheck for my work on the board. Every day when my wife and I look out the window, we pinch ourselves because we are so pleased to be in such a beautiful community. Not paying enough and no one can take that away from us. In my second term, I want to finish several projects that I've been working on for the past few years, including the Stillwater Bridge project, the Nexamp solar array that's going to go over the old landfill, the moving our town offices into the 1888 building, finding a new space for the senior center to exist under one roof, and finally to revitalize Elm Street. The Stillwater Bridge is a vital link between East and West Deerfield. It links our neighbors on Upper and Lower Roads to the rest of Deerfield. And it's the fastest route for them to come to South Deerfield. And for my wife and I, it's the fastest route to get to Clarkdale Fruit Farms. So the long-delayed Nexamp project is about to break ground this summer, and it's capable of generating enough electricity to power about 3,000 homes. On a better note, once it's up and running, the project's going to deliver more than $6 million over the next 20 years of new revenue for Deerfield. I call the 1888 building a project a twofer because it satisfies two needs. It allows our town to move into a modern office building while also creating an empty space of about 9,000 square feet for the senior center to use until a final decision is made about the future.
Thank you, Tim.
Oh, good evening. I'm Dave Wolfram. I am running for election this year against Tim. I want to thank the League for Women Voters for inviting me here. Those of you that know me, I've raised 4 daughters in this town, and I've always strived to have them as strong women as possible. From the early days when I was a Girl Scout leader until, now my oldest one is 45, and I'm very proud of what they've become. They're both in the pharmaceutical industry, and it's because of the background that they got, not only from me, but from the town of Deerfield, and knowing the strength of women in Deerfield, and not just, I'm running again because I want to finish some of the projects that I actually started when I was on the board before. I started the solar project at the Dome. It got held up, and for the past 3 years I've been working with Casey on it to make sure that it kept on going. It kept on running into little roadblocks, but right now it's projected to generate about $230,000 a year coming back into the coffers of the town. I started to work on the 1888 building, and I also had started to work on the Congregational Church so that that could be becoming the senior center. A lot of the work was done on that. Originally, Deerfield Academy was going to do the work, and there was some conflicts there, and that's when Eaglebrook picked it up. So I'm very proud of what I've done in the past in this town, and working towards the town and trying to balance everything that is going on here. So, thank you.
Thank you. For this first question, we will start with you, Dave. What are your top 3 priorities for Deerfield that you plan to address as a member of the Select Board?
Well, the highest priority I have right now is to take care of our seniors. Right now, we're kind of split. As I said, I'm hoping to get that senior center going in the Congregational Church, which is actually a temporary home, probably for 3 to 5 years until we can come up with the financial resources. Secondly, I want to make sure the solar project keeps on going on the dump, because that's going to be bringing in significant revenue to the town. Thirdly, I want to make sure that we have a dumping station put into the South Deerfield plant, or a tipping station, so that 60% of the population of the town of Deerfield is septic system. And right now, all that has to be taken out of town.
Thank you. Tim?
So, my first thought is that the Stillwater Bridge needs to get built. It's a $23 million state-funded project, and it's 20 years in the waiting, so we need to finish that project. Next, I'd like to see the 1888 building converted to the new municipal offices. This morning, we had a walkthrough with subcontractors and contractors. is out to bid, and we expect initial responses by May 20. That will allow when the offices move over there, that will allow the empty town hall to be used. It's got 9,000 square feet of space. It would be more than adequate to bring the seniors into under one roof, possibly in the next 18 months, without additional expense to the town.
Thank you. Tim, you will answer this next question first. Please talk about your early life experiences and how they have influenced you in your public service in Deerfield.
So I was an Army brat. I was born on an Army base in Texas, moved to one in Germany, lived there for a couple of years. I don't remember any of it. And then I came back to the States. When my family moved to New England, moved home to New England, I was 7. My mom and dad were both children of the Depression, so they taught me to be respectful of money and how to stretch a dollar. That served me well in my municipal career, such as it is 3 years. I always try to bring additional money from state and federal sources to do any project in town. Examples are the Sugarloaf Street project, which is entirely paid by MassDOT, and the Leary Lot project, which was almost $3 million, 2.46 of which I worked with this town administration to bring in from the federal government, and $300,000 from the Mass Vulnerability Preparedness state-funded group. Didn't cost the town a dime.
Thank you, Dane.
Okay, I wasn't an Army brat, I was just a brat. And that was so, but, you know, I was born and raised in this town. I started out at a very young age working on a dairy farm and then tobacco farms. As I got older, I worked in an orchard, and then as I became a mature adult when I was in my early 20s, I joined the fire department, and I served in the fire department in town for 17 years. And at the same time, I became an EMT, which I served for 30 years, or actually 30 plus years. Deerfield Police Department for 12 years. I've always been committed. You know, I lost my mother when I was 12. I just lost my sister Mary Stakarsky just last October. And Mary always instilled on us that we should focus on community. And one of the last things she had asked me to do was make sure that I ran again. So.
Thank you. So Dave, you will go first this time. What specific issues or concerns motivated you to run for this position?
Well, you know, I'm worried about the fiscal responsibility of the town. You know, and unfortunately, a lot of it isn't because of the Selectboard. It's because of what the town has voted in. We have a new library that's adding $500,000 to our budget this year. We have to look at things and balance what I call what our wants are and our needs. Our needs are obviously education, public safety. Our wants, you know, are a high-end senior center. I think we're going to have to hold off on that a little while and have a temporary home until we can come up with something better. And those are some of the driving forces for me.
Thank you.
Can you restate the question?
This question was, what specific issues or concerns motivated you to run for this position?
So in my first 3 years, I started a bunch of projects, among them totally revamping the Leary Lot. That's been completed. Projects that I really worked hard on, the 1888 Municipal Building Project. Over a course of 3 years, I've secured a $4 million loan from the federal government to pay for half the project. I really want to see it through. I was thrilled when we saw more than 24 contractors at the walkthrough today. I'm also critically wanting to see the promise of moving the senior center first into the space that Eaglebrook worked on. I worked with Wes Smith at Eaglebrook to try and revamp the fellowship hall portion of the building, put in the floors in the kitchen, design the kitchen with a grant from $100,000 grant from Senator Comfort. I'd like to see the seniors use this space in lieu of what they're using in Sunderland. It's a much better space. And then I'd like to see them move into the Old Town Hall once we're finished with the new building.
Thank you. So this question will begin with you, Tim. Respectful dialogue in public meetings is important. How do you ensure all voices are given the opportunity to be heard?
Good question. So this is really important to me. In June of 2021, we had an incident in town where people were not allowed to speak at public meetings. They were told that they couldn't use certain words, and for a month they were not allowed to talk about a public problem. And public comment was suspended for 2 months until the ACLU came in and said this is not constitutional. So I open every meeting that I'm, and we have a 20-minute public comment. Oftentimes there are very few people in attendance and or online, but they are all given an opportunity to make a comment about anything they want to talk about. And I'm always respectful of them, and I never tell people what they can and can't say. So this is a cornerstone of government. You need to be able to communicate with your citizens, and you need to respect all citizens, no matter whether they voted for you or not.
Thank you. Dave?
Okay, the incident Tim is talking about was that there was a very heated debate about Dollar General going on at the time. The CBA had a very heated meeting just before our meeting, and I had actually reviewed it with our town council. And when the town council said that if at any point in time somebody starts degrading somebody that is not there to defend themselves, you are to stop the conversation. So that's what I did. They said, well, we didn't bring up his name. Well, you said that he was serving on the ZBA and was a sergeant on the police department. It kind of narrows it down. The only reason the ACLU came back down on us was because we had never had a policy for open discussion in town. So they wanted us to establish one. And this was working with our town council, Lisa Mead, all through it. And she said, and it was actually only 2 meetings after that one, that we could not have open discussion.
Thank you. This next question will begin with you, Dave. What have your achievements for the town been when on the select board?
Yeah, actually, we've got somebody.
Thank you. Why you?
Thank you. Thank you.
Could you repeat?
I'm sorry, yes. So what have your achievements for the town been when on the select board?
Well, there's a number of things that happened on the select board. The project for the Leary lot was actually started with Trevor on the system, and that was in place for several years before I got off last time. The solar project was something I had been working on for almost 6 years, and it wasn't coming to fruition. We kept on working with Nexam. We finally got Eversource to agree for a connection, and it was after that the ball actually started rolling, and unfortunately I was off the board after that point in time because, quite honest with you, I decided not to put much effort in the last time I ran because my sister was diagnosed with cancer and family came first.
Thank you. Tim?
Can you restate the question?
You bet. What have your achievements for the town been when on the select board?
So I worked with a team to set up a totally new project. Sorry, that's all right. Anyone else got a phone up?
No.
Okay. So when I was elected to the select board, the Leary Lot project had stalled for a long time. The land was purchased in the 1990s for the express purpose to build a parking lot. In 2019, when COVID and ARPA money became available, it was revived as an idea. In the next 3 years, nothing happened. When I was elected, I found out why it had stalled. I worked with Casey to resolve those problems. Then I got a teamwork together to find new funding for it, had a total new design, got high-speed electric chargers put in so that it would attract people from the highways to come to our town who would otherwise not come here. It was completed in less than 2.5 years. It's an example of how I can stick with a project and get it done.
Thank you. Dave, what have your achievements for the town been when on the select board?
Oh, we already, you just
Do
already
you want to
mentioned.
do that?
Yeah, he was first.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, and you're next again.
I-
Start.
So what major town project or projects have you helped develop and see through from A to Z?
Well, I'll just refer to my last answer. The Leary lot is a big example of something that I've seen through. Another thing that I'm really proud of doing is working with our state legislators after the June 2023 storms to secure $1.58 million in disaster relief. Our legislators helped our farmers out earlier that year, and so we were not sure we were going to get this money. I worked with the police chief and his staff to develop an informational presentation to town members because originally they voted against letting us borrow money to fix the roads. After that meeting, we had an overwhelming response and we were able to fix the roads. 10 days later, we found out about the $1.58 million grant, and we had enough money in our reserve fund to pay the balance of this without raising taxes, and we rescinded the borrowing authority that we got it at the ballot box.
Thank you. So I'll just need from you, Dave.
Okay,
What major town project or projects have you helped develop and see through from A to Z?
well, one of the problems I ran into in the end was because of the way COVID hit us and the two major storms that hit us in the town. I was on board when we secured the $23 million for Stillwater Bridge. The only open discussion that we had at that time was that the state originally wanted to shut it down altogether, which would have shut off West Deerfield, and we can't do that. So the solar projects, as I said, those are something that's just been like pulling hen's teeth. We just kept on working and working and working on it. That was fundamental in the setup and the functioning of the South County EMS. We combined Whately, Sutherland, and Deerfield into one unit, one full-time unit, because we were running into a problem of staffing in 3 towns. So now we have a pretty good system there. It still needs a few little tweaking, but it's something that's been very important and has helped the town through our emergency services.
Thank you. So you'll start for this one, Dave, and you'll actually probably have an opportunity to speak a little bit more. This question, they had asked more particularly, what infrastructure projects have you helped develop and complete?
Well, the only infrastructure projects that I actually worked on, because of the storms, was working with Chief Patrick and making sure that we were able to rebuild the roads that were washed out. We lost parts of River Road, Mill Village Road. We worked on, securing funds for that. As I said, the $23 million for Stillwater Bridge. There's a number of things that we were working on to get completed. It was a challenge because whenever you're working with the state, there's a challenge. The current thing that we're working with is the bridge on North Main Street, which we're working with the federal government and the railroad, so that's a challenge to get that completed.
Thank you. Tim? What infrastructure projects have you helped develop and complete?
So some of these things are mundane. They're sidewalks. In particular, the Sugarloaf Street sidewalk project developed through discussions with MassDOT about the need for them to take care of Sugarloaf Street, which is a state highway. Over a course of 12 months, we got them to come to the table and actually repair the sidewalks and a good portion of the road. Also, we put in safety lights and speed lights through 2 grants on North Main Street in a collaboration with the town's regular plan to repair those sidewalks. I've mentioned the Leary lot, which I basically worked with the team to totally redesign and create a totally different project with a connector to Elm Street. And it has porous pavement for water resiliency concerns. When it rains, the water soaks into the ground and doesn't puddle up. And finally, we're working on the Elm Street project, which should break ground this year.
Thank you. So this one goes to you first, Tim. What are the challenges you see for the next 3 years for Deerfield?
So one big challenge is going to be absorbing the cost of two projects that were approved by voters from 2019 to 2022, those being the South Deerfield wastewater treatment facility and the Tilton Library. Those tax increases are a direct result of this, and it happened before my time on the board, but recently in public social media, I'm the one that's being held responsible for this. So I don't agree with that, but that's what's happening. Other priorities are completing the projects that I really think we're going to make a huge difference in South Deerfield, the 1888 building, and then moving the senior center into the town hall so that they can have programming in a 9,000 square foot space. They've never had that much space before, and it will, again, not cost the town money to move them there.
Thank you. What are the challenges you see for the next 3 years for Deerfield?
Well, here again, fiscal responsibility is a primary concern of mine because we're pricing our seniors out of their homes because the tax rate keeps going up. The taxes go up is not a direct relation to the select board itself. It's because of everything else that's happening in town. As Tim had mentioned, the wastewater treatment plant, the library, the library alone had 4% to it. And we're not saying, and I've never said that Tim was responsible for the increases. The town is responsible for the increases. It's just trying to make people aware. And one of the things I don't think, there's some of the increases were because I was partially at fault. It may not have given everybody all the information they needed on what was going to happen to the taxes with the wastewater treatment plant, with the library. So.
Thank you. Well, we'll start with you. Can you please discuss your history of securing grants and money from the state and federal government and what the money was used for?
Well, the biggest thing that we got to the state when I was on was all the ARPA money that we got for, and it was because of COVID. A lot of that money was secured to the board to take care of a lot of different things in town. We used it for a lot of different things in town and help balance our budget, but that was kind of a real big nut to crack for the town. And, I think we spent the money wisely that were granted. And, part of that, I've got to give kudos to Carolyn Ness because she was really the one that really drove a lot of that for us in town at the time.
Thank you. Tim, do you want me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Can you please discuss your history of securing grants and money from the state and federal government and what the money was used for?
So ARPA was a special case. It was money that was granted to the state and it was distributed by the state under a formula, so there was really no application for that. But in my 3 years on the board, I secured a $4 million grant from Senator Warren and Markey for the 1888 building project. I worked with Assistant Town Administrator Chris Nolan to develop a CFI grant for the Leary lot. CFI is Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Act, and it basically paid for most of the Leary lot. I also helped I was the letter writer for the select board lobbying the legislature and the governor for disaster relief in the 2023 storms, securing $1.58 million, and you know where we spent the money. So that in total is $8 million in 3 years, and it's not even counting a lot of the smaller grants that I helped apply for. So I've got a good record of bringing in money to pay for projects so that the taxpayers don't have to pay for them.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Tim, for this one. What are your plans to continue with development of the municipal campus in South Deerfield, including a senior center, temporary or permanent, and senior housing, and how will you seek funding that will not impact our taxes?
So the first thing, I've stated this many times, but basically the projects are linked. The twofer is build the 1888 building, move the town offices to there, have an empty space, 9,000 square feet, where a senior center can be brought in under one roof to offer all their programming, nurse, offices for the staff, rooms for individual yoga classes and that sort of thing, temporarily. We had a large study done which identified a $15 to $17 million future senior center. We don't have the funds for those. So I don't think that's realistic right now, but temporarily the old town hall would be a perfect solution for that. And so I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you.
I see, for the seniors in the senior center, the quickest and easiest way is to move them back into the Congregational Church. All that work has been done. Eagle Book did an excellent job on that to get it prepared for us. Moving into the old town halls, that's going to take quite a bit. That's going to probably cost a couple $1 million before we're done getting them back in there. Because we have to build a kitchen, there's a lot of other things that have to be done there. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm just saying that it's not going to be a free transition. And I stress that it's going to take 3 to 5 years probably before we get this done. Senior housing, I'm in favor of senior housing. I'll be right up front with you. I was not in favor of buying St. James Church because it was not an adequate property for senior housing. Even by tearing everything down there, it wasn't big enough. As it turned out on the RFP, we did not get any responses of people who were interested in doing anything there. So now we've got to step back and figure out what we're going to do there.
Thank you.
Dave, this one will start with you. Please talk about your volunteer public service in response to the pandemic. How have you worked to ensure our town's preparedness for the next pandemic or other emergencies?
Well, that's me.
Again, I'm sorry, I'll repeat it.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah,
talk.
That's fine. Well, since the early inception of it, I've been involved with a lot of the flu clinics that are done in town. When COVID kicked in, I worked a lot with the, well, at the time it was Treehouse, Dean Rosen over there, where we got that set up, where we had a lot of the COVID vaccines and stuff done over there. I think, unfortunately right now, we have a problem with the flu vaccine because some of the things have kind of slipped through, and right now we're not in a position to be able to do flu this coming year. But I'm going to try to get that addressed, working with South County and make sure that we can get those vaccines.
Thank you. Tim, do you want me to repeat it?
Sure.
Please talk about your volunteer public service in response to the pandemic. How have you worked to ensure our town's preparedness for the next pandemic or other emergencies?
So before I was elected to the select board, I was a member of the town's emergency dispensing site program. I worked with Carolyn Ness, who set that up in 2005 in response to a flu clinic, flu and pandemic, the bird flu. And now I'm a member of the Medical Reserve Corps of Massachusetts. I worked at more than 20 COVID and flu clinics beginning in 2019. I worked at all the COVID clinics in Deerfield. I worked in Greenfield, Northfield, Buckland, and GCC, several of the federal ones. At Treehouse, I worked every shift, and I did see Dave come, but he never worked a shift. So he's not really being honest with you when he says that he was intimately involved in this. EDS is still an ongoing program, and I still am a member.
Thank
Can I do a
you.
rebuttal? No?
We don't
Okay.
do rebuttals. Moving on, This is, Tim and Dave, these are both, this is a convoluted question, so I'll repeat it for you when it's your turn.
Can you speak up a little bit?
The old Cumberland Farms sits in a prime location on Sugarloaf Street and remains unoccupied. What are the major roadblocks preventing a business venture or real estate sale for this property? What unique skills can you apply to turn this property into a viable, tax-producing business that serves our community and beautifies our town center?
So the main obstacle for the Cumberland Farms is that the company that owns it has put a lot of restrictions on the property. They don't want people to sell coffee, they don't want people to sell food, they don't want people to sell gas. And in order to find a buyer who's willing to take on this project, it's a small lot, and we've had several potential buyers, Element Brewing, a person who owns some more real estate in Deerfield also have expressed interest, but they've never been able to reach an agreement with the owner. We have talked about taking the property by eminent domain, and then removing the restrictions, because when you do eminent domain, you remove the restrictions. And then we could probably have a better chance of selling it to a private enterprise who could improve the store or build housing above the store. But these things are dictated by the constraints of the real estate market. So those are the options that I see going forward. Find a buyer or eminent domain.
Thank you.
Obviously, the Cumberland Farms has been an eyesore. It took them 2 years to remove the tanks out of there. And, you know, the biggest problem, as Tim said, is because the people that own it. They live in Boston. It's a Boston corporation. They think that the prices should be Boston prices in the center of South Deerfield. I know my cousin offered them a fair amount of money, who owns Wolfie's, and they turned it down. And he was just going to make a parking lot out of it, basically. So, and my understanding is that some of the covenants on the property are about to expire because of the length of time that it's been there. And they haven't been able to do anything with it, so.
Thank you. So you will start this time, Dave. Would you please explain where and how reductions in taxes can be made if the national rate of inflation is close to the increases in town taxes, coupled with the recent real estate assessment reevaluation and mandated projects like the wastewater treatment facility and school budget increases?
Well, the easiest answer is to tell you right up front, the taxes in Deerfield are not going to be going down. They're going to be where they are going up. It's a slippery slope, you know, we 2.5 every year. So, you know, that's built in, that's what we're increasing. Tax rates have gone down, but assessments have gone way up. So people are still, you know, they're saying, well, you know, my tax rate went down, but if you actually look at your bill, the taxes have gone up. I wish there was a way that we could reduce taxes in town. I'd like to see certain provisions in our town budget to our elderly to get a certain tax break, our veterans to get a certain tax break. They get a little bit of tax break now. I was hoping that they might be able to get a little bit more. But actually to have the taxes go down in town, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. It's just not.
Thank you. Do you need a statement? Right along. Would you please explain where and how reductions in taxes can be made if the national rate of inflation is close to the increases in town taxes, coupled with the recent real estate assessment reevaluation and mandated projects like the wastewater treatment facility and school budget increases?
So Dave's correct that taxes are not going to go down. But there are steps along the way that I think the voters made wise decisions when they debt excluded certain projects. So one is the highway department. In 2034, we will have paid off the highway department, which will reduce the tax load because it comes off the bottom of the tax levy. Every year, the assessors recommend, and the financial advisors and the town accountant recommend that we raise the tax levy by the full amount allowed under 2.5, and we do so. The library is a 20-year bonding, so 20 years after it's completed and we put our final loans out, it will disappear. Those will be opportunities for taxes to moderate. Also, the Deerfield Elementary School is going to lose a class next year because the 6th graders, they'll only need 2. So there will be a reduction probably in the DES funding.
Thank you. We're getting close to the end. Were there any additional questions to offer? Okay. So Tim, you will be answering this question. What makes you the best candidate for the job? Please be specific.
So, I work hard. I have a lot of energy. I am very good at raising outside resources from the federal and state government. I'm a good researcher, so I constantly want to look out for new funding sources. I'm not afraid to work manually. I'm willing to pick up a hammer and saw and do a project. I think that I go out of my way to represent the town in ways that include, like going to a chamber breakfast because a Deerfield resident is going to be speaking there. I march in what used to be called Monty's March every year, so I can talk to Joe and Natalie and Jim and Ashley Randall about Deerfield. These all make it easier for us to work with our legislators and deliver resources to Deerfield. And that's what I plan to continue to do.
Thank you. So Dave, what makes you the best candidate for the job? Please be specific.
Well, I've always had the interest of the town of Deerfield at heart. Those of you know me that I'm not much of a talker. Most of the work that I do is behind the scenes. I'm not there for publicity of any type. I just want to get things done. I've worked with our town administrator, assistant administrators in the past to get things done. And it's important that because, as a select board member, it is a part-time job. We have full-time people that we have to utilize. Am I the best for this? Maybe not. If I had my druthers, actually, I was trying to solicit a couple of very strong younger women to run for the board instead of me, because I thought that would be important, because I think we have to have a balance on all the boards in town. Yeah. Currently, some of the boards aren't balanced, and that, as a selectman and working on it, I think, we can work and strive to balance everything out.
Thank you. So, with that, candidates will now offer their closing statements in reverse ballot order, starting with Dave.
Okay, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and speaking with you folks. I just want you to know that I'm not going to always agree with you, but I'm going to always listen to you. That's one of my biggest assets, is I listen. I'm not a reactive person, but it's important that, and looking at all sides of things and making sure things are balanced. We don't want people on any of the boards that all think alike. We want to make sure there's diverse opinions, because, I'm a strong believer in the two-party system, where, and both sides are talking, because I'm not always right, but I'm not always wrong. In talking, we can kind of balance things out. And that's going to be important, especially in the future here, trying to balance things within the town of Deerfield and get things done on a reasonable manner.
Thank you. Tim.
So you've heard a lot from both of us tonight, and in closing, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. If you want respectful, fiscally responsible government, I'm your guy. If you want someone who works hard every day, I'm your guy. If you want someone with a lot of energy, I'm your guy. If you want someone who shows up in times of crisis, I'm your guy. If you want someone who works well with our public safety officers, I'm your guy. If you want someone with a track record of bringing home state and federal dollars, I'm your guy. If you want someone who has fostered great teamwork with our state and federal legislatures, I'm your guy. If you want someone who's willing to work hard with anyone who's also willing to work hard, I'm your guy. If you want someone who goes the extra mile to represent Deerfield throughout the county and state, I'm your guy. I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight, for paying attention and being interested. And I want to also ask you to give me your vote on May 5th. Thank you.
Thank you to the candidates for joining us tonight for this forum. Thank you to the Frontier Community Television for covering this forum, and to Historic Deerfield for renting us this community center at such late notice. And if you'd like to help defray the cost of that rental, we have a basket up front here on your way out. We'd appreciate it. Deerfield's town election is next Monday, May 5th. The deadline to register to vote has already passed. Polls will be open at Town Hall on 8 Conway Street from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you again for joining us, and please remember to vote.